30th inaugural kickoff of the District Advisory Council meeting for the 2021 school year. And I would like to call our meeting to order at this time. First, I believe we have a few moments for a welcome here, and I appreciate everybody participating. I do want people to be aware that we have a chat available. I see some folks doing that, and I believe Dr. Spiro has volunteered to help us moderate the meeting by monitoring the chat, so that might be a way with so many people involved to ask questions or put information in there, and we will try to get perhaps some of his folks to help respond to people in there. I know some of the executive directors, I saw at least Linda Mayer in attendance. I didn't scroll through all of them, but I know some of his staff is here that can assist with that as well. I see we have some people already raising issues with trying to use Google Forms to sign in. Some people are saying they didn't get it. Some people they said they did. We'll sort that out over the next few minutes, and we can put a message in chat and figure out how we can keep track of attendance so that every school does get proper credit. I see Erica nodding. I see multiple people are saying they didn't receive the Google form. So everybody just kind of hold tight. We'll give Dr. Spiro and his staff a few minutes during the meeting as we proceed to figure out how we want to handle the sign-ins and keep track of that. And we'll get back to everybody on that. I'm sure that the Zoom itself does keep an attendee list. So I would encourage everyone, if you haven't, as long as your sign-in is your name, we could track it down. If necessary, we may ask people to add their school or something to that, or potentially towards the end of the meeting, we could ask everybody just type in the chat saying their name and school, just as some thoughts while we work through this. With that said, do we have our board attorney in attendance?
I am here. Good evening, everyone.
Welcome. Well, then go ahead and take it away for your presentation on the Sunshine Law.
Okay, sounds great.
You can get a drink, sweetheart. Daddy's outside, I think.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, can everyone see and everyone hear? Are we good? Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me here today. And I know a lot of you are experts at this, so we won't bore you too much, but hopefully you'll get some tips or maybe a refresher on some of the important things with regards to Robert's rules and why you're here and sunshine and all of those wonderful things. And I keep getting a pop-up with regards to C waiting room, so just bear with me. All right, so first and foremost, I just wanted to make you aware that there is a board policy 1.19, which is really where 1.20 comes from with regards to community engagement. It's for the board's opportunity to be inclusive and to hear from the community, to have two-way communication with the community, and that's why we actually have the board advisory committees. So 1.20 is the actual policy that governs the board advisory committees. And the purpose of these committees is to provide input, give advice to the board, support the board. Sometimes the board through the superintendent would actually have some specific topics for you to address with them. And overall, just give them advice with regards to your particular mission in your committee. I do want everyone to know that you do have a fiduciary responsibility. Being a member of an advisory committee means that you really can't personally benefit from being on the committee. You can't benefit yourself, your employer, a family member, or anything like that. Membership to the advisory committees are through the board. Specific board members will appoint their members. And then we ask that you not miss meetings. And if you miss more than 3 meetings of the committee during a school year, you will be removed from the membership effective in September. The placements, the appointments are good for 2 years beginning in September. The meetings are from September through November. We skip December, and then we start back up again January through April. At your first meeting, we ask that you select your chair and your vice chair, and then you should be prepared to provide quarterly reports, as well as if there's a particular subject that the superintendent would like for you to address, to also include that in your quarterly reports to the board. All of the committee meetings are videotaped, and you should be prepared to provide public comments, allow public to come and speak. We also ask that you use professional decorum at all times. And because there is a rule in 1.20 that allows for you to not necessarily have a quorum, you do not need a quorum to be able to move forward with your meeting. However, when we go into Robert's rules, we'll talk about the necessity to have enough people so that you can actually conduct business. The board is involved in these committees through its board liaison. For this particular committee, your board member is Ms. Chris Patrica. And again, the other way that you will have involvement with the board will be through the quarterly reports. What did I do? There we go. All right, so this is the District Advisory Council. So you will analyze and try to understand the concerns of the operation of the school through the staff, the students and parents, and the meetings of SAC. And it's really important. You're basically the eyes and ears of the board for every school. That's basically your function, to assist the board and advise the board with regards to the operations of the school. And also to help with the understanding of various things that are needed in the school, and to assist SAC with its decision-making process. All right, subject to sunshine law and public records. Because you are an advisory committee, you are subject to sunshine laws, which means that everything has to be out in the open. The reason is you're not just fact-finding, you're actually going to give the board advice that may in turn become something that they will have to act upon. All of the meetings of advisory groups must be open to the public at all times, and it must be properly noticed so that the public knows that there's a meeting and they can participate in. All of the minutes of these meetings shall also be promptly recorded and open to public inspection. All records must be maintained because in addition to sunshine, you are subject to the public records laws. Now, how do you operate your meeting, especially with such a large group? It's really important that you utilize what we call Robert's Rules of Order. And Board Policy 1.20 actually expects you to utilize Robert's Rules of Order. Again, you may proceed without a quorum, but you do need to have a chair and a vice chair and always have an agenda for your meetings. Why do we use Robert's Rules of Order? Well, Robert's Rules of Order is a parliamentary procedure, and it allows the members to have equal rights and privileges and obligations during their meetings. It allows for the majority to decide while protecting the rights of the minority. It allows for free and full discussion, and everyone has the right to know exactly, as you're conducting your business, what exactly are we discussing? If you have a motion on the floor, what is that motion? What are you, do I have an opportunity to discuss it and to debate it? So how do you handle a motion, and what is a motion? So in Robert's Rules, it requires that every single business goes through the, hold on a second, goes through the motion process. Nothing goes to discussion without a motion being on the floor. How do you get recognized? You will get the chair's attention, either by raising your hand or if it's electronic, maybe you raise your hand electronically, but you want to get the chair's attention to let the chair know that you have a motion that you would like to present. And especially if you really utilize Robert's rules, you will have a very, very smooth meeting, especially when you are with such a large group. It's very important that you try the best that you can to be formal with Robert's rules. Excuse me. Excuse me. Now, how do you actually bring the motion to the floor? Well, you've gotten recognized by the chair, and then you would say, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman. I move that we purchase some yellow playground equipment for Franklin Park Elementary School. It's very helpful to write your motion down so you can get your words precisely as you want it. And it also helps the secretary because your secretary has to record the motion. And if she can have that little cheat sheet from you, that will help her out as well to make sure that she's using these specific words. So you've made your motion to buy the playground equipment. You need a second. You need someone to second that motion to keep the motion alive so we can go to the next step, which will be discussion. So now that a motion has been made, the chair will then restate the motion. It has been moved by Mr. A and seconded by Mrs. B that we purchase playground equipment. Are you, body, now ready for the question, or are you ready for discussion or debate? Let's now discuss the motion about buying the playground equipment. Yellow playground equipment. So at this point, the members discuss, they debate the motion. It's recommended that the chair, the person who first brought up the motion, should have the floor first. So the chair should recognize the person whose motion it is. And then also as a tip, the chair should kind of go through individuals who have pros and cons. So one person is for the motion, then the chair should really consciously try to go with somebody who opposes the motion so the body can have a full spectrum of all of the opinions. And everyone should have the right to speak at least one time. And then it's really important that you keep the discussion germane to the motion. Try to avoid going to tangents. Let's say that you want to close the debate, close the discussion. So you can say, Mr. Chairman, I would like to close the discussion. There's a second, and you require a 2/3 vote to do that. Normally in Robert's rules, it says that the default is that everyone will have 10 minutes to speak, but you can adjust that as you need to. Some large bodies will have a more limited time period, but you just want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to at least speak one time. During your discussion, very, very important that you listen, be respectful. Also be respectful of each other's time. Be conscious of how much you're speaking so that the other person can have an opportunity to speak as well. Again, stick to the subject. What is germane to the motion? We want to avoid going on tangents. If we're talking about yellow playground equipment, then let's talk about yellow playground equipment. We don't want to go into what happened yesterday at Oasis Charter School or some other school. And try to avoid bringing personalities in the discussions as well. The way to do that sometimes is just to address everything to the chair versus individual board members. That kind of helps you be focused and it helps it be more formal. And the more that you bring it to the chair, the more that you're formal, sometimes you can avoid those personality conflicts that sometimes can occur during discussions and debates. Let's say that you feel that this is way too long at this point, and you feel that at this time, it's time to limit how much more time that each speaker can have. Everyone's been taking 10 minutes. We're never going to be done. Madam Chairman or Mr. Chairman, can you please, I move that we limit the discussion to 1 minute per speaker. This will require a 2/3 vote. let's say that you feel that this is, again, too long, but you don't want to limit discussion at this point. At this point, you want to close the discussion. You're ready for the vote. So you would say, Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman, I would like to move the previous question, or you can say, I would like to move that we end discussion, that we call for the vote. This ends debate and requires a 2/3 vote. Let's say that at this point, everyone has had their say. No one else wants to say anything else. So the chairman will say, are you ready for the vote now? Or are you ready for the question? That's a very formal way of saying it through Robert's rules. And then the chairman will actually bring the motion back to the body for the body to vote. And the chairman really needs to say this. The motion on the floor at this time is that we buy the yellow playground equipment. Because remember, in Robert's rules, you want all of your members to know exactly what they're voting for. So as chairman, you want to repeat the motion as it is so that the body understands what they're voting for. And then the chairman will allow the vote, and then the vote will then be cast, and then it will either carry or fail. Now, let's say that your motion was to buy the yellow playground equipment. And this is an area where a lot of people get confused and it can get muddied with Robert's Rules of Order, is when you want to amend a motion. So let's say you want to not buy yellow playground equipment, but let's say you want to buy red playground equipment. Madam Chairman, I move that the motion be amended by adding the word red and striking the word yellow. Or not have a color at all. I just want to buy playground equipment, and whatever we can get, we get. This is called amending the motion. And the thing that you have to remember with amending the motion is that you're only going to vote on the amendment. So if the motion was to strike yellow for red, Madam Chairman, I move that the motion be amended by striking out the word yellow and adding in their place the word red. You're only voting for that substitution of those two words, yellow for red. And you do need a second. And then let's say that the motion passes. Okay, you won. Now it's substituted red for yellow. Now you go back and you vote on the original main motion that's on the table, which is now to purchase red playground equipment. Remember that you can only amend a motion twice. You know, I don't think we need to buy playground equipment. I think we need to buy some books. Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman, I move to substitute for the pending motion the following, that we buy books. I'm completely substituting playground equipment for books. So you've been in this meeting and you've heard them talking, and at this point, you just don't think that this motion is going to, you kind of think that you need some additional information. How much does this playground equipment actually cost me? I need to either send it to a subcommittee to get some additional information, or I just want to postpone it a little bit because I think we need to think about this and do a little bit more research. After you're recognized by the chair, Mr. Chairman, I move to postpone the question until our next meeting. I move to postpone the question until a subcommittee has been formed to evaluate this and bring us a report. Whatever it is that you need, you may postpone it until such time. Well, let's say that, you know, this motion has kind of been sitting around here for a long time. We're not making any headway with it. And I just don't even think it's a good idea. And I don't think the members think it's a good idea. You know, Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman, I move to postpone the question indefinitely. I move to postpone the motion indefinitely. That basically kills the motion. It doesn't come back up. So let's say that you're at your meeting and, wow, this agenda is 15 different items. It's pretty long, and I'm not going to be able to sit here until item number 25 comes up. Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman, I really need to vote on item number 25, but I know that my time is limited, but I have something very important to share with the group. Can you please suspend the rules and let's move item 25 to number 2 or item 15 to number 1, whatever that you need to happen. And then, of course, it requires a second and the body will vote. So let's say that you're back to face-to-face meetings, and for some reason, the AC is not working and it's getting really, really hot. Excuse me, point of personal privilege. Yes, ma'am, what is the problem? Well, it's just too hot in here. Is the AC not working? Can we get somebody to please take a look at it? Is maintenance available? Point of personal privilege. This meeting is not following the rules. Mr. Chairman, you're kind of all over the place tonight, and I don't understand why. I need us to get back in order. I rise to a point of order. Point of order, please. Point of order. People are talking out of turn. We need a point of order. And then, of course, the chair will rule that the point of order is taken or not well taken. But this is a really good tool to get everybody back in line. Here we are talking about this playground equipment, and I know she said something that it was going to cost $10,000, but she also said something else, and I don't understand what she was saying. Excuse me, point of information. What was that other thing that you said with regards to the $10,000? Could you explain that to me, please? Point of information. You're just trying to get some information to clarify. I remember that Ms. Bruno said that if we are going to limit the discussion, that we needed a 2/3 vote. But everyone's saying a majority. We need to double check the rules on this. Excuse me, point of parliamentary inquiry, please. Can we please double check the rules of Robert's Rules of Order so we know exactly what we are supposed to do? What does our parliamentary procedure cheat sheet say in terms of how many? Is it majority or 2/3 vote that is required? So tonight you should be nominating and electing your chair and your vice chair. So nominations are in order, and then you can nominate yourself, someone can nominate you, and at some point the chair will say, are there any further nominations? If not, nominations are closed. And if there's only one candidate that's running, then that person will be elected by acclamation. So you are now the chair. What are your responsibilities? You are really responsible for running a good meeting, for keeping the meeting in order, for following the agenda, for processing the votes and the motions. This all falls on the chair. You are responsible for restating the motion prior to the vote. You're responsible for helping sometimes with the wording of a motion. You may have a member that says, what I'm really trying to say is this, but I can't get the right word. The chair can help with wording of the motion. If the motion is not in order, then you can say it's not in order. You bring the motion to the body for debate and discussion. You process the vote, and it's extremely, extremely important that you announce the results of the vote. Mr. Chairman, you were wrong with your response to my parliamentary inquiry. I appeal the decision of the chair. Doesn't need a second. Members can only speak once and the chair may speak twice. So this is why I said that Robert's Rules requires us to have 2/3. No, it doesn't. It's majority. No, on page 16, it clearly says 2/3. Then the question is brought to the body, and does the body agree or disagree with the chair's decision? And then finally, it's good of the order, which is your opportunity to make comments or observations for the good of the body, for the good of your committee. And also, if there's some type of something that has happened with a member, or there's a concern about a member's behavior as it relates to the committee, you can bring it up at that time as well. So at this time, I'm going to entertain any question that you may have.
Hello, good day. My name is Stephanie, and I wanted to clarify you said in order to amend a motion, you're able to do it 2 times. Is it within the school year, 2 times for the year?
2 times per motion.
Okay, thank you.
2 times per motion.
And if I can jump in here, at least in the past, speaking as the past chair here, depending on, and we'll see what happens tonight with our elections, but typically DAC operates in a much more informal methodology. We have a lot of presentations from staff, and we tend to have a question and answer period afterwards. Certainly we can follow Robert's Rules of Order at any time that we're going to be making an actual providing an advisory opinion to the board to ensure that the opportunities are provided. But it's my understanding that we can operate informally. And just to clarify a little on time to speak for everybody, typically what we do is after we receive a presentation like the one we just have, if people have questions, we limit each speaker's time to 3 minutes to either make comments or ask questions. And certainly we have had people sort of make comments, allow other people to make comments, and then come back with additional comments, time permitting within our agenda. But given the number of people we have, for example, tonight we have 108 attendees. If we allowed everybody 10 minutes to speak on an issue, obviously we would far exceed our 2-hour time limit. So given the size of our group, I understand how the formalities of Robert's Rules can assist some groups, but the odds are most of our meetings will be done much more informally the way we've done in the past. And if we ever have an issue where there's a debated or contested matter, then certainly we can invoke Robert Rules of Order and handle it more formally in such case. But I do want to let everyone know that our general meetings, the intent is to continue them in an informal fashion as we've done, and certainly try to provide everyone with the opportunity to comment and speak as we have always done, unless the committee as a whole wishes and requests that we run the meetings in a different fashion. But it's our goal to try to make sure that everyone who wants to comment has the opportunity to do so and has the opportunity to provide that feedback, and then get responses from the staff members that we usually have in attendance addressing the issues. So I just want to kind of make those comments, not to put anything different from what we've just been told. And certainly when necessary, I think Robert's Rules of Order can be invoked if we ever have a contentious issue where that becomes necessary to ensure that it is properly vetted. Thank you.
So I will just add to that the 10 minutes is what Robert's Rules like normally, but with a group this size, I would concur that you guys need to come up with a way that works best for you so that everyone has an opportunity to speak. With regards to your motions and those types of things, board policy does require you to try to follow Robert's Rules, so I would encourage you to use as much of it as possible because it does help with the processing and trying to get to that end goal. But I understand that this is a little bit of a different committee, so you use the best methods that works for you. Any other questions?
I had a question. Is it possible for us to get a copy of this PowerPoint presentation so we can review all that information? It was a lot to take in such a short period of time.
Yes, absolutely. So once I finished all of the advisory committee groups, I'll be sending it out to your secretary so they can share with you. And you should have also gotten a little cheat sheet of chart that has some little simple tips for you that should be able to help you with some of these rules that we just talked about. So your secretary should have it for you. If not, let me know and we'll make sure that you have that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No other questions? All right. So thank you so much for your service on behalf of the board, and we're looking forward to your reports. Everyone have a great evening and good luck with your elections. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bruno. Two points I'll bring at this time. It does appear that there were some issues with the Google form. It looks like everybody is doing a wonderful job putting their name and school in the chat. So please, if you haven't already done that, please do that. That will be memorialized, and
the chat.
Ms. Grimm will make sure that everybody who puts their name and school in the chat is marked present. And I see as soon as I said that, more people are doing it. As well as, please be aware that during any of these presentations, if you want to use the chat, and it'll certainly be helpful, hopefully once everybody's finished putting the attendance in, if you want to use the chat to ask questions, the chat is being monitored, and we will try to also bring those questions forward to the speaker as a way to help manage it with so many people. I think we just did great there with the way people unmuted themselves and asked for questions. That works as well. If we have any conflict on that, what we can do is have people put something in the chat, and then we can have someone recognize you. With that said, that brings us to the next portion. We have a welcome message from our wonderful school district superintendent, Dr. Atkins, and I think he is ready to speak now.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Scott. And I do want to thank everybody for joining us for this, the first official DAC meeting for the new school year. And very, very excited that we've got school underway. So glad that we're getting back to a little bit, some sense of normalcy. I want to give you a very, very fast district update. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I'm just supposed to do a welcome, and then I believe I have a board member that will give you a district update as well. These are just a couple things that, as kind of the liaison for your school, some information for you to take back. A couple things that I just want to bring to your attention. One, as you've noticed, we have been notifying schools whenever we have a positive case. So letters are going out to parents and so forth. We just were put on notice that the state is going to start doing this from a state perspective. So they'll be putting on their state site, all the schools and the number of positive cases. And then what the challenge is right now is that we have to reconcile what we reported versus what the state is reporting. And something that I'd like you to make sure you convey back, if you could, is that there may be some discrepancies in some cases, because what we are reporting is our actual students that are in the school in a face-to-face environment. So if we have a student that is actually going to school face-to-face and they have a positive case, that's where we notify the folks at the school, the parents and the staff. If it's a Lee Home Connect student that is not attending a school that has been using Lee Home Connect, we have not been notifying a staff and parents at that school, because that student hasn't been in that facility since March, potentially, if ever. So I want you to know, if you do see that type of discrepancy in the short haul here, that's probably the reason why. But so anyway, I wanted you guys to be aware of that. Another question that we come up is about, are we making changes as a result of the governor's phase 3 announcement last week? And the answer to that question is that we're currently reviewing the implications on school districts that had to have more implications on restaurants, bars, and places like that. Not as much when it comes to direct implications for a school district. Having said that, we are in the process of reviewing our guidance as it relates to attendance at athletic events, how many people we're allowing in stadiums and so forth. So if we do make any changes, we'll be communicating that out in the near future. The last thing that I want to cover with you just very quickly is we do actually, if you can believe it, we are actually in, we're literally in the middle of Q1, but we're already getting ready for Q2. And remember, Q2, we're going to give parents an opportunity to make changes in the instructional model. So if a student is in Lee Home Connect and they want to come back face-to-face, they have an opportunity to do so in second quarter. So parents, please be aware, we're going to actually be putting a survey out to you on, I believe, Sunday evening, and you will have it you can have it up to a 2-week period of time. We need to get that back on or before the 16th, preferably before the October 16th, with your selection if you're going to make any change, So in other words, if you're a Lee Home Connect student, you want to come back face-to-face, or if you're a face-to-face student and you want to come back to Lee Home Connect, that you can do that at that time. And then staff is going to be working the next 2 weeks on making those changes and making sure we have appropriate staff at all of our schools. But during this, making these changes, also another thing just to make parents aware that there is a possibility that we may have to change a student's schedule. So a student has algebra class second period, they may now have it on, during fourth period, something like that. There may be a need to change teachers. We hope not to do that or to minimize that, but that may also happen as well. And if you think about it, we anticipate that we could potentially have hundreds or even thousands of students that are actually choosing to come back to school. And therefore, it's obvious that we're going to have to make changes in schedules to accommodate those students. Then we will have things pretty much locked down until the semester. And then the semester is another opportunity for us to make changes. And that's also when Lee virtual students have an opportunity if they want to come back to a face-to-face model or vice versa. So the last thing I want to say about that particular item is that when we do have all these students coming back to school, that our ability to social distance won't be as we won't be able to do that as much as we are currently doing. So we're anticipating having to, really, watch our social distancing more, but we're not going to be able to do it as well as we're doing it currently, and just want to be up front and, make sure everybody's aware of that. That is really it for my welcome and my announcements. But again, I just do really, really appreciate that your opportunity to serve. If there's any questions, I will be happy to take them now. And then once we go through that, I'm going to have another appointment I need to get to, so I'm going to have to step off the Zoom call. But again, appreciate your all service. So with that, any questions? And
thanks, Dr. Atkins. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jeff Sparrow. I'm the Chief Academic Officer for the school district. We did have one question in the chat box, Dr. Atkins. That was related to the deadline, again, for making that selection from Lee Home Connect to face-to-face or face-to-face to Lee Home Connect. The form will go out this Sunday night, and you will have October 5th through October 16th, 2-week window to complete that form. And then after that point, that gives 2 weeks for our assistant principals for curriculum to work that schedule. And quarter 2 begins on November 2nd, Monday, November 2nd. Dr. Atkins, there's a question about face masks. Will they still be rehired throughout the end of the year? But I would assume that means they're probably asking, are face masks still going to be used throughout the whole year?
That's a very good question, and just kind of like that way I answered that phase 2 or phase 3 question from the governor. What we do is we're continuing to work with our Department of Health, and we're going to make that determination when it would be appropriate for us to start to phase out the use of masks. I do hope and anticipate that will happen at some point. But also, we do understand and believe that there are certainly student safety factors that we have to keep in mind. So, our Chief of Staff right now, Lauren Stillwell, has been working with the Department of Health and to come up with really what we think is a good metric for making that decision and that determination, which will have to do with the positivity rate and the number of days that we've been under a certain rate. Which good news for us so far, we've been trending in a good direction. So we will continue to keep you posted. Same type of process that we use for making the decisions around stadiums. When it comes right now, we're at 25% capacity. When we decide to expand the number that we allow into stadiums and other sports venues, that again is going to be done in partnership with our local Department of Health. And then finally, decisions like do we allow bands to travel? Do we allow cheerleading to travel? Those questions also are ongoing right now with the Department of Health, and I do anticipate changes, but don't look for anything super big next week as a result of the governor's phase 3. Nothing to do with the governor, just wasn't directed really at schools. So working with the Department of Health on those issues.
All right, just a couple more questions. I know there are a lot in the chat box, and so we'll try to get as many as we can do, Dr. Atkins, and then those that afterwards we don't get to. I have 4 executive directors on this call, 2 for elementary, 1 for middle, 1 high, and they'll be working the chat box as we go through. So I'll ask a couple more, Dr. Atkins, then when you let me know when you have to step off. So if Lee Home Connect is a success, have we considered making this a permanent option in the future?
That's an excellent question, and I think the answer to that question is that we do believe that distance learning, either through Lee Virtual School and or Lee Home Connect, is something that we will continue utilizing in one form or another. I'm not going to say 100% that Lee Home Connect is going to be something that you're going to see next year in its present form, but I do strongly believe that the distance learning option is going to be something that you're going to see more of our students want to avail themselves to, and we as a district need to make sure that we're able to do that. So we are working in that direction. In fact, Dr. Spiro and I had a conversation about this last Friday. The other thing that we also talked about that we're working on is what are we learning in this new environment with Lee Home Connect and the utilization of technology. I believe this is going to be able to we're going to learn from this and be able to provide our students an even better educational experience. So say, for example, that we have an absolutely phenomenal instructor that is at Lehigh Senior High School and teaching a course that's very, very difficult for us to be able to teach at Ida Baker for whatever reason. Maybe it's being able to find a qualified instructor or somebody that has that degree of talent, but being able to use technology that we've learned through Lee Home Connect to be able to connect into that classroom real time and provide that instruction to students from a really incredible instructor. So I think that we have those type of opportunities that we are really thinking, we can really level the playing field and provide equity and educational opportunity for all students and provide opportunities to our kids that they never would have had opportunities to get at before. So, long answer to a short question, but yes, distance learning and derivations from it, I think you're going to see continue on in the district.
There's another question about will Lee Home Connect be available for the entire year? And I know you and I spoke, and we really anticipate having that option right now, as long as families need to have that option as they're making the best decision for their child. Anything else different on that?
No, I think we're definitely already committed to at least make it semester. But like Dr. Spiro says, it's something that we're going to continue to evaluate for the rest of the year. And I think that none of us, I think, imagined that this pandemic would stretch out as long as it has. And right now, I'm not seeing an end in sight necessarily for us to be able to taking protocols as of yet. So yes, I would agree with that response, Dr. Spiro, trying to make this stuff available, at least this semester and probably the year the way it's looking.
So there's a question about volunteers and people going into schools and helping, such as school grandmas, PTOs, etc. And I know you talked a little bit about the positivity rate earlier. Anything you want to add about when will you consider, or as a team consider, allowing volunteers back in school?
I think that's, again, one of those that we're starting to consider right now with the phase 3, working with the Department of Health. So just kind of like the stadium answer. So that these are on the front burner for us as a team to begin talking about, volunteers, people coming into the building who are, like consultants, opening up capacity at stadiums, those type of things.
So last question, Dr. Atkins, then we're going to stay on our agenda. And again, I'll have the executive directors, myself, work the chat box from this point forward. If a lot of students choose to come back face-to-face, Dr. Atkins, what about social distancing?
Well, I think I did addressed that earlier, but I'll state it again. While we will still work toward maintaining social distancing protocols, there are going to be cases that we are not going to be able to maintain 6 feet in a classroom. We just simply are not going to be able to do that. Now, there's a great diagram that our Department of Health helped us develop in terms of a seating chart. What would occur is if we have more students in a classroom and we have that seating chart, then, and you have students that are within that 6 feet for over that 15-minute period of time, those are students that are going to be quarantined. With more students in a classroom, you're going to have it impact a larger number of students in terms of who would be quarantined. And it's going to affect our ability to socially distance in cafeterias and also other spaces as well. I do think, I have been very pleasantly surprised with what I've seen in terms of the how we're quarantining right now. The Department of Health, in my opinion, has been very reasonable in its response. And so, and our school administrators and teachers have done a great job with the seating charts, and our bus operators, that has been a huge, huge, huge help to help us be able to quarantine only those students that are really in that zone that potentially gets impact. So it's gonna make it more difficult, and I do anticipate more students will be quarantined, but I also believe that it will allow us to provide really better educational opportunities for more kids face-to-face.
Thank you, Dr. Atkins. I'm going to take this moment. I'm going to introduce the executive directors so everybody knows who they are. Some of the questions you're going to put in the chat box, we're not going to be able to answer this evening, all of them, because some of them have to do with human resources and bargaining topics. And so we'll indicate that in the chat box as we go through. But somebody near and dear to me who made all this possible tonight, I want to introduce to you Erica Grimm. Erica is my secretary. I'm going to ask her to unmute, say hello so people know who you are.
Hi.
Thank you, Erica. And then I'm going to ask each of the executive directors. We'll start with elementary and work our way up to high school. Just unmute, say hello, introduce yourself, and let everybody know the level that you supervise with our principals.
Hi, I'm Shanna Fletcher, and I work with the elementary principals.
Hi, everybody. I'm Denise Carlin, and I work with Shanna to supervise the other half of the elementary principals.
Hi, everyone. I'm Linda Mayer, and I work with the middle school principals.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Clayton Simmons, and I work with the high schools and the special centers.
Thank you very much. And so those are the 4 executive directors, and with myself, we'll try to work the chat box tonight, answer as many questions as you have. And we understand as we answer one question, that means it answers another question, which opens up to another question. So we're going to try to work that as quickly as possible. And if we don't have an answer for you, we'll let you know why we don't have an answer. And then Mr. Hertz, who was our chair last year, we'll make sure that we talk about that. How do we want to bring that forward for following meetings moving forward? So at this time, Mr. Hertz, I think we are ready for you to introduce our school board member and time for our board update, sir.
Yes, and that brings us to the wonderful Miss Chris Patrica, who is our board liaison. And I'll just briefly comment that Miss Patrica is very experienced with DAC, having been a DAC member and active participant in its committees and actions prior to being a board member. So she's certainly seen both sides. And with that, I would ask Mrs. Patrica to take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Hertz. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here tonight, and thank you for your service. I don't think that can be overstated. I've tried to, from the board table throughout the pandemic, I've tried to recognize the hard work of our staff and of our teachers, and I really think they're doing a fantastic job. You heard from Dr. Atkins tonight, the constant work that's being done with the Department of Health to make sure that we're keeping children and staff as safe as possible while still providing the highest quality of education possible. But I think that the group of people that has not been appropriately thanked is parents. We have a lot of parents on this call tonight, and I have to tell you, this is my 4th year on the school board, and I have never experienced this high level of positive participation by parents in the education process. I am all day, every day on the phone with parents who are asking genuine questions from the heart, expressing concerns, giving good feedback, good suggestions. And frankly, the feedback from parents has in many instances altered our reopening plans. So I urge you all to continue to be engaged. Now that your children are back in school, talk to your teachers, talk to your principals, make sure that they know what your needs are, what your students' needs are, so that we can be addressing those as they come up. I would like to give DAC a charge that I'm not sure any of you have received in the past. I would like actionable recommendations to come out of DAC this year. I understand that we're in an unusual time, and I'm excited tonight to hear about your feedback about your experience in the schools up to this point in the semester. But as the year goes on, this group is boots on the ground in each school. And so if we can gather data from the experiences you're having in each school, and that can become a recommendation coming out of DAC to the board, then we can implement plans in order to improve the educational experience for everybody. So that's sort of my charge to you. I'd like to see certainly staff providing you with information, but more importantly, I'd like to have you providing recommendations back to the board so that we can get better, if that makes sense. And I'm going to end there because really I believe tonight is your night to provide us with as much feedback as possible. Thank you for your time. And again, thank you for your commitment to DAC and to the school district.
Thank you very much, Board Member Patrica. And that brings us to the next item on our agenda, which is the approval of the DAC minutes from the last meeting, which was our May 20, 2020 meeting. Certainly, hopefully everyone received an email from Ms. Grimm with both some of the presentations for tonight, as well as the parliamentary procedures that were provided and the minutes from the May 2020 meeting. At this time, and let me say this separately. If for some reason you didn't receive that email, I'd maybe ask you to wait till closer to the end of the meeting. And if you put a comment maybe in the chat, or if you need Ms. Grimm's email, we could have Ms. Grimm's email placed in the chat perhaps. And if you would email Ms. Grimm, if you're in this meeting, I'm going to assume you got an email, so that's how you got the invitation link. But if for some reason you didn't receive the email with the attachments, let's be sure that you send an email to Ms. Grimm so she can make sure that your email address is correct in the list. It's, there's usually little tweaks at the beginning of the year to make sure all the members get that. But at this time, I would be happy to entertain a motion to approve the minutes if someone would like to so move.
I motion to approve.
And Ken, what's your last name in school?
Wilbert, Heights Elementary.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second?
I second
that motion.
And is that
Phyllis Howell? Grace.
Ms. Grimm, did you get that?
You're muted.
I didn't get the second person, I'm sorry.
It was Ms. Grace Howell. And what school are you with, Ms. Howell?
G. Weaver Hicks Elementary.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Being that this is Zoom, I'm going to ask for just all opposed. So if you are opposed to the motion being approved, please unmute yourself and so state, and then we'll follow up to see if there's some issues that need to be addressed. So at this time, all opposed, kindly say nay. Seeing no nays, the motion unanimously carries for approval of the minutes. The next item on our agenda is public comment from any non-DAC members regarding the agenda items tonight. Do we have any non-DAC members in attendance who would like to provide public comment at this time? You may unmute yourself or indicate in the chat that you would like to speak. Seeing we have no one's coming forward, I will close public comment from the non-DAC members at this time, and we'll move on to our What is DAC presentation, which everyone who received the email should also have. It was the document was labeled the DAC election presentation. It also contains an overview of what DAC is, as well as our election process. And I see it's up on the screen for us, and we can go ahead and go to the next slide. I'm just waiting for that to, there we go. So as was mentioned, and Board Member Patrica did a wonderful job in sort of laying out what the board seeks as the goal for DAC is, it's our purpose to disseminate information from the staff and folks in the school district to the staff of individual schools, students, and parents, and for that to be further disseminated by you folks when you go back to your schools and speak at your SAC meetings. Excuse me, the SAC representative should always have an opportunity to present at those meetings and coordinate those agendas with the principal of each school. And the purpose of this information sharing is to improve the understanding of the various aspects of the operation of the school district. Some changes that we've made over the years is, I would say we're up to probably 98 to almost 99% of the time. All presentations are provided to the members ahead of time. Just as we had some comments tonight, I apologize that the presentation of the school board attorney, I guess she's still working on that to finalize it, that wasn't provided. But typically, we have been very successful, and Dr. Spiro and Ms. Grimm do a wonderful job of making sure that anyone going to present to DAC provides us the presentation ahead of time so that you have the opportunity to review that, potentially the opportunity to have that discussed at your school SAC meetings or with folks that provide information from the individual school aspects on that, so you can come ready to ask questions or participate in discussions about that. And then the last point is really what was emphasized by Board Member Patrica is it's our responsibility to provide feedback to the school board and to staff on the various issues presented to DAC. Typically, we have done that informally, and that's the discussion and comment period that usually occurs after presentations. And we have several times last year taken formal votes and taken formal positions and provided advisory statements to the school board. And it is our goal to continue to do that going forward this year on a more continuous basis. And one of the things that we've requested from all presenters is that if you want to come to DAC, that you also, as part of the presentation and that we get ahead of time, is at least have at least one question that they want our feedback on, so that we're getting this idea that it's truly a bi-directional give and take of information, and that it's clear to the DAC members what it is that is being sought feedback on, so that you can think about that ahead of time and come prepared to discuss that. With that, we can move to the next slide. And when that comes up on the screen, you should see a graphic of sort of the relationship between the school board, our school board liaison, Board Member Patrica that just spoke. We had the DAC Executive Committee, which consists of the chairperson, the vice chair, and then we have a chair, an assistant for each of the breakout groups, so we call them. And if you see that there, the subcommittees, the elementary, middle, and high school subcommittees, and that's what makes up DAC. And each of those groups, when they go into breakout sessions, will elect a chair and an alternate of those groups, and those folks together make up the DAC Executive Committee, and that's how we work to gather information and provide that back to the board in the virtue of advisory opinions as we strive to make constant improvement in our school system. And we can move to the next slide. This pretty much mirrors what the board attorney relayed to us, that the responsibilities of the DAC chairperson is to facilitate these meetings, as well as facilitating the executive DAC meetings and assist with the development of the DAC and executive DAC agendas. I will tell you that in practice, it is the executive DAC board that does come up with the agendas and the topics, and we do that in conjunction with staff. It's a good collaboration that often it goes in both directions. We both get requests from members or things raised during meetings where there's topics that our members would like, and we bring those forward and request that, as well as sometimes there's things that occur, such as different issues with transportation or other issues where the district staff is seeking feedback from DAC. And so that department can come and request to make a presentation to us, and we ask just those kind of questions. What is it you're trying to find out? Why do you want feedback from DAC, and what is the feedback you're seeking? And that's how the agendas are typically developed. And then one of the other things that we do is, as people ask questions, we go through the executive DAC, reviews the questions and answers to ensure that there's a response to every question that squarely addresses the question and try to make sure that everyone's questions are answered. And Dr. Sparrow and his staff have really done an excellent job in documenting that, providing who is giving that answer in case follow-up or something was necessary, and ensuring that the question, the real point the person was asking is properly addressed. We can move to the next slide. We also elected DAC vice chairperson, who in the absence of the DAC chairperson will run the meetings, same for the executive DAC meetings, and the vice chair also assists with the smooth operation of the meetings. Often, as we talked about, as I mentioned, the way we run our meetings, for those of you that haven't attended previously, when we have a presentation, we then typically allow questions and comments. We do restrict those to 3 minutes. One of the things that the DAC vice chair does is try to keep track of that 3 minutes. Typically, and in our in-person meetings, we try to be flexible about that by seeing how many people we have queued up. As we all learn virtual and Zoom, we'll try to figure out ways as we go forward to see how many people we have queued up and try to adjust available time to ensure that everybody gets to ask a question, while not necessarily limiting someone strictly to a 3-minute time period if they're going to go a little bit over to address a point that seems important to everyone. And our vice chair helps facilitate those procedures. And that will take us to our next slide.
This is where I'll jump in, Mr. Hertz, on this next slide here. All right, so what we're going to do now is we are going to go ahead and select our DAC chairperson. Now, when we do this voting process, only the school's DAC representative may vote. So if you are an alternate for your DAC at your school, or you're a guest, you may not vote. So what we would like to do first is we're going to take nominations first. And we're going to do that through either two ways. One, you can unmute your microphone in a moment and say, I would like to nominate the following individual. Or you may go ahead and put that name in the chat box, and we'll monitor that chat box for a person's name. Once we have all the nominations collected, then Eric has already pre-populated a question in a poll. We're going to go ahead and put those names in the poll, and that we'll send that out. So at this time, if you would like to nominate, and I've already seen in the chat box, if you'd like to nominate, go ahead and put a name in. I see in the chat box, individuals have selected Scott Hertz. If you would like to nominate somebody else in addition to Scott Hertz, please unmute your mic or put that in the chat box. And I'll be quiet for a moment so I can listen. Any other nominations? Scrolling through the chat box and listening for the microphone. I do not see. Just double checking. I do not see or hear any other nominations. Mr. Hertz, excuse me one second. Mr. Hertz, do you accept the nomination?
I do.
Thank you, Mr. Hertz. And at that time, we'll move the slide to the next slide, please. One more, Erica, please. Okay, this time we now would like to nominate the vice chair. We're going to go through the same process. The vice chair will be selected either by unmuting your microphone and or putting a name in the chat box. We have more than one name, and then we'll go ahead and we'll do the poll. And Mr. Hertz has seen a lot of congratulations messages in the chat box for you as being the chair. So let's take a moment and let's look at the chat box, and I will also unmute my mic at this. We are going to need a vice chair, so someone who's looking for a leadership opportunity.
Are you allowed to self-nominate?
Absolutely.
Okay, then there is one in there. Ken Wilbert said he was willing to vice chair.
Thank you very much for pointing that out to me. So Ken Wilbert, am I saying that right?
Wilbert, yeah.
Thanks, Ken. Appreciate it. Ken Wilbert has graciously volunteered. I also have Rhonda Watson as well. So we have two names. We have Ken Wilbert. Ken, what school do you represent?
Heights Elementary.
Elementary. Rhonda Watson, what school do you represent?
Lehigh Elementary.
Lehigh Elementary. Okay, we have two names, Ken and Rhonda.
Go Elementary.
Easy over there. All right, so if there are no other nominations, I'm going to ask Erica to put both of those names into the poll, and we will send those names out. And remember, if only ones that can vote are the DAC chairs. The alternate cannot vote, and if you are a guest, you cannot vote as well. Erica?
Dr. Spiro?
Yes.
Typically, in my experience, if we had more than one candidate, we offer them both approximately a minute or so to say something. Otherwise, our members are picking just off a name. So I would certainly suggest that we allow each of them a approximately a minute or so to introduce themselves and say why they'd like the position, so that people can have some information.
That is why you were the chair, Mr. Hertz, right there. So yes, so for each of those individuals, and we'll go ahead, since Ken, your name was first in the chat box, we'll start with you, and then we'll go with Rhonda. Thank you.
Thanks. My name's Ken Wilbert. I am the DAC representative for Heights Elementary. I do have two children. My daughter is currently attending Heights Elementary. My son is a sixth grader at Dunbar Middle. I was also on the DAC last year and got to learn a lot from being on the committee. And just definitely want to step up and help the school board and help the DAC move in the right direction so that all of our students are able to get the quality education they deserve from Lee County.
Thank you, Ken. Excellent. Rhonda, you're up.
I'm Rhonda Watson. I've been a teacher in the district for 24 years. I've been to about 6 or 7 schools, and I'm just really all about using our voice, speaking up on behalf, and trying always to advocate for our school, for our district, for the teachers, and definitely for our students.
Thank you, Ron. And I do want to say thank you both to Ken and for Rhonda. It's not easy, to nominate and be part of this group, this large group. We have over 100 people here tonight. So thank you very much. So if everybody would go ahead and vote at this time, please. Again, if you're an alternate, you're not voting, or a guest, you're not voting, just the DAC representatives. Okay. So I'd like to say congratulations to Ken Wilbert. Let's give Ken a round of applause wherever you are. Ken, congratulations to you. You are now the vice chair for DAC.
Thank you.
At this time, we are ready to get ready for our breakout groups. Mr. Hertz, if you want to talk a little bit about that, how that's going to work, or would you like me to? It's up to you, sir.
Either way, I'll make a comment, and I'll certainly encourage Ms. Watson to run for the, if you will, chair of the elementary breakout group. Since you're willing to be the vice chair, I would certainly encourage you to run for the chair of the elementary group, which, to be clear, the chair and assistant there of each breakout group also attends the executive DAC. So everybody on executive DAC has sort of equal influence to what's going on. So I would encourage you to do that, as well as folks be thinking now, if that's something you're willing to do. I know typically that's one of the more difficult parts of our first breakout sessions, is to get people to step up to do that. So please self-nominate yourselves in the breakout groups. Typically, what occurs in the breakout groups is once we've had a presentation, we then move into breakout groups to discuss them specifically to our levels based on the elementary, middle, and high school. I believe Dr. Sparrow and his staff are going to be able to create 3 separate groups for us here in Zoom, and then they will work to move us into those breakout groups based on your school. This is the first time everyone is doing this, so everyone please have a little bit of patience. And there's, as I mentioned, I believe Dr. Sparrow told me there's 108 of us in attendance, so it may take a few minutes to put all that together. But the goal is, your first and primary goal in tonight's breakout group is to elect your group chair and vice chair or assistant, if you will. A lot of times what we do is the chairperson facilitates the breakout group meetings, and they have an assistant to help them take notes and keep track of what is said. And then when we come back all together after the breakout groups, it is the chair who then presents the issues and questions raised in those breakout groups. And we have allocated approximately 30 minutes tonight for those breakout group discussions. We're a little ahead of schedule to get moving there, but I imagine it's going to take a little while. I would encourage each of us, based on the request from our board member liaison, that once you have elected your chairperson, that what you discuss are the issues, challenges, positives, negatives, and both are important. Both the positives and the negatives are very helpful for what your experiences have been with the school year so far and how it's been impacted by the pandemic and the things that we are doing. Certainly, if you use the chat, I believe that will all be captured and preserved from each of the breakout groups, so we can capture questions that way, as well as what you present. And the reason I say it's important to also say positive things is one of the great things that occurs out of this committee is sometimes one school is doing something that I've seen come forward at DAC that other schools can then imitate and take advantage of, and it gets spread throughout the district by Dr. Sparrow and his staff because somebody brought it up at DAC about how wonderful it was. And sometimes, like a principal doesn't necessarily realize that they're doing something that awesome that everybody else isn't doing. So positives are just as important as the negatives. And I'm emphasizing the positives, but certainly if there's something that's not working well for you or something that you're frustrated about in the process, this is a great time to air that. And what's going to happen is each of the executive directors, and I guess elementary school gets a double dose of having executive directors participate in those breakout sessions. And as necessary, they will most likely facilitate the initial part of those meetings to elect the folks. So with that said, I think we are ready for Dr. Sparrow and his staff to start moving us to breakout group sessions. And if you have any ways that you like to suggest that, Dr. Sparrow, go ahead.
Yep, we will. So we're ready for that. So we are going to adjust our time. We're a little ahead of schedule, believe it or not. So it's 7:15. So we'll say 7:15 to about 7:45. You're going to go ahead and elect your person that represents your group, talk about topics you want to discuss in the future, or any questions that you may have that we need to respond to as well. So Erica, whenever you're ready, you can put them in the breakout groups, executive directors. If you're finishing early, text me, and that way I can kind of communicate with everybody else in the group. I'll see you guys very soon. Erica's moving you guys. The numbers are dwindling, so it's going to take a moment. Eric, anything you need from the team to help facilitate that?
No, sir, I'm moving them over.
Okay, thank you.
Rhonda, you're still muted.
Sorry, I do that in class too, all the time, and my students have to tell me. So our discussion was really about how amazing the teachers have been, how they've been able to adapt to the whole new world of instruction that we have been thrown into, and really a lot of kudos and just real admiration for the hard work the teachers have been putting in, and for the administration as well, that everybody really voiced that. The administrators have been amazing and really trying to accommodate parents, faculty, teachers, staff, everybody. And I'm sure it's been an incredible task that they've had, and they've done amazing with it. We did have a couple of questions I think that we left up for future answers regarding the cleaning that was taking place in some of the schools that we had one of our members' children's get a rash from it. And so I think they were just looking for some more information about that. And there were several questions about the plans for what our future will be with face-to-face students returning to this, or the students that will return to face-to-face, or maybe those that are going to want to switch back or over to Home Connect, and what are the future plans for that?
Great. Thank you very much. And I'm sure your executive directors will work with us to help capture those, certainly in the Zoom world. As now that we have our chairs elected, we'll all work on how we're going to make sure all the questions get captured and then we get those responses in the minutes. And that'll move us to our middle school group.
Hello. All right. In our group, we did have some questions. We also had a concern brought up about the cleaning products and what was being used. There was a concern brought up about the ability to social distance when more students are returning to the face-to-face delivery method. There was also a question about being able to provide training for Google Classroom for parents and caregivers on how to access it and how to best navigate it with their children, and possibly also providing additional training for teachers to help them with setting up the classrooms and possibly having a consistent look and feel to that Google Classroom, so that when you're going as a parent or a student from one classroom to another, that you can find information easily. There was a question about if there was other options besides using Zoom for supervising students. Another question about rosters and how that will look when we move into Q2 and the shift between different delivery methods. And that was all of the questions that we had this evening.
Great, thank you very much. And that will move us to high school.
Hey guys. Running the high school group as the chair this year. So we talked about several different issues that impact high school students. We talked about athletics and, trying to get tickets for their parents on senior nights. That's been a little bit of an issue with the GoFan app. So there was some discussion on how to make that experience better for parents so that they can see, their children, play their last year of football or volleyball or whatever. You guys are going to absolutely love this. We have Regina from LAMP. She's a teacher there, and she mentioned that no issues with transportation. It's the buses have been on time, and there have been less issues this year. Maybe not zero issues, but she said it's been so much better this year, the experience. And we all know that transportation can be tricky. So that was really good to hear. Communication has also been better. Our Gateway High School representative is an educator as well as a parent. And she said from both perspectives that the communication has been strong and clear, and she really appreciates that. Let's see. The question of college night came up. We usually have a big event at FSW Stadium, and we're curious as to what resources are available for high school students so that they can get connected with colleges. What support do the guidance counselors need to handle that workload? We had Mike, who's the principal from Estero High School, mentioned, or maybe this was Fort Myers High School, I'm sorry, mentioned that they do have a virtual college night prepared, and maybe that's something that we can model for all of the high schools. Let's see. A parent was concerned about clear communication to the student body and to parents if, about the increase of numbers for face-to-face. So if there's 400 students for quarter one and quarter two is going to see it over 1,000 or something, we just want to make sure that parents have that information before they make the decision on whether or not to send their child, or they want to have that information so that they know whether or not they would want to pull their child back from face-to-face. Let's see, in HVAC, again, was brought up, are we using UV lights? We talked about the upgraded filters that were purchased, but maybe there's a question there for operations to discuss how we're getting fresh, clean air into the building, especially with social distancing expected to decrease in the school. And then just we had several parents talk about, and educators talk about, just the positivity among the student body, among parents, educators, administrators throughout this whole process. Everybody's pretty much working together and doing a great job. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And for those of you that are newly elected breakout group chairs, you'll be receiving an email from Ms. Grimm, and we will coordinate with you the first executive DAC committee meeting. At this time, that moves us to input from a non-DAC member and any non-agenda items. Do I have any non-DAC members that would like to speak to DAC at this time? Seeing none, I will move us to good of the order. Are there any DAC members who would have something they would like to contribute for the good of the order at this time?
Do we know the date of the next meeting?
Let's see, that is an excellent question. Dr. Spiro, do we have a date for the next meeting? So what Dr. Spiro, if I understood him, was saying is that our executive DAC committee will meet. We will then work with staff to determine those dates and get that out to everyone. So given the current situation that was not preset as to when the next meeting is, so everyone will be receiving an email with that information. Do we have any other questions for the good of the order? I'm not seeing anyone else speaking up for the good of the order. Dr. Sparrow did put that in the chat. So at this time, I would be happy to entertain everyone's favorite motion to make, which is a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, I see that we have a motion and a second. And all those opposed, say nay. Thank you, everyone, for attending. At this time, we stand adjourned and look forward. Again, very much appreciate all of your participation and understanding as we did our first Zoom meeting. And everyone look forward to an email from our wonderful Miss Grimm giving you the information on the date and time of our next meeting, as well as the next executive meeting. Thank you very, very much, everyone, for participating.